Welcome back to the Agora stage here at 4 years from now, 2022. Imagine a world that's run on the blockchain. Now, we've been talking about blockchain and decentralized technologies for a few years now. What we've been doing maybe over the last couple of years is starting to imagine, okay, so what does that actually mean for our culture? What does that mean for society? As I mentioned a few moments ago, we've seen applications being built on top of blockchains recently. There's been a lot of noise around the whole NFT movement and about what NFTs might be able to bring to us culturally. What we're going to be discussing in the next session is building on that, and we're going to be touching on another acronym that may well be new for many people, DAOs or DAOs, Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. And here to welcome our panel of experts who know far more about this stuff than I do, but I'm sure we're all going to be far more knowledgeable about it in the next 55 minutes or so. Please welcome from the Data Venture, the moderator for this session, Alex Puch.
GM, so there's a new language going on right now. So first question, how many of you do you own cryptos? How many of you know what DeFi is? Or DAOs? NFTs? How many of you have owned that for more than 2 years? Not that many people. The main thing is like, I keep hearing a lot about these new technologies, but I've been working on these new technologies for more than 10 years now. And most of the people we have right now also, they are here. And it's exactly the same. They've been working on these technologies for a long time, and it's not just a technology. And that's probably what I want to talk about today, that it's not just a technology. I was like, two weeks ago, I was at Denver, a full conference about blockchain, and all of the topics, all of the discussions, the people, the companies, everything was completely different at what you can see here. But completely different. It's a different culture, different tribes, I would say, different language. As I say, like GM, good morning. That's something we say a lot. And that's it. I'm going to try to convince you that probably there's a shift, a change in cultural behavior when it comes to Web3, that it's not just technology, and that we're speaking about probably, as you will see, we have someone that's just barely 20, but he's quite important so far. And they are the new buyers, the new, all of this new wave of people coming into Web3 so fast and with new values, with new points of view. And that's probably what I want to talk about that. In stage, one of the things that I was most surprised to see is that everyone I was speaking to, it was like, okay, who you are? And it's, okay, I used to go to work at Facebook. Not anymore. I left the company 2 months ago. I used to work at Google. Not anymore. I used to work at Microsoft. Not anymore. So in the last 10 years, I've seen a lot of people from the financial world moving to the Web3 world. And now what I'm seeing is a lot of people from the engineering world, so people that they are builders, all of them just going away from most traditional kind of companies and coming there. So I would say, like, please, come on, guys, join me. Jahed, please say hello to Jahed.
Going, Paul,
Yonat, Paul, and Ursula. Join me, guys.
Good intro.
Thank you. So let's go to the boring part first. I will let them introduce themselves. I already know them, so that's boring for me. But anyway, they're really nice people, so be kind with them. Jahed, please, say hello.
Jahed, I'm a steward of Prime DAO. I'm also an investor in the Cosmos region ecosystem. And I also dabble in the Olympus DAO, as well as help out a lot of DAOs with their processes, organization, that kind of stuff. So.
By the way, we'll speak a lot about what's a DAO, and most of the words he said.
Hi, I'm Yonat. I'm an artist. I've been making crypto art since 2017 and been working with NFTs since 2020, kind of bridging the gap between the physical art and digital art. And now in the process of starting a kind of spaces in the metaverse for meditation and immersive, transcendent experiences through a play to earn or play to meditate base.
Hi, I'm Ursula Oakington. Do you hear me well? Yes, I think so, because I couldn't hear you well. I'm Ursula Oakington. I've been working on blockchain space for the last almost 10 years. Alex Puig was one of the first person that I have met in this space here in Spain. And I'm a journalist as a profession, but my curious spirit had led me to blockchain. And I'm still learning because no one is an expert here in this field. Everything is evolving so rapidly. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paul. I'm a 20 years old entrepreneur. Basically, I started entrepreneurship when I was 16. And I joined crypto 4 years ago. And basically, the last 1 year and a half, I've been building an all-in-one financial hub for the younger generations where they can use market and decentralized power to pay for their expenses or achieve common goals easily.
That's it?
Yeah.
Well, that was fast. So the thing is, like, as you can see, we have someone who's not an expert, there's no experts, but probably the guy I know who knows more about DAOs and cooperation. So probably with Jahed, we will speak about the values of Web3. We have someone that a lot of people, they know, no, I'm an artist, I'm going to do NFTs, and I think they miss to understand how the new society and economy works on the NFT world. Ursula is working on one of the biggest protocols on blockchain right now. So they know a lot about not just financing, but how all of the community is working around that, the Web3 community. And Paul, basically, he's so young, but he understands DeFi better than anyone I know. So I remember I started talking to him like 1 year ago, and I was telling him this is that, and now it's the other way around. Sometimes I need to call him so he can explain to me some of the things that they are going on DeFi. So Jahed, you're first. Like, what's the DAO? What's so important? And what's the? We were talking about values.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I mean, the title of this little panel, New Tribes in a Decentralized Society. You know, why decentralization, right? Like, why am I involved in DAOs? And I think, like, when you talk about it from the perspective of values, there are, you know, these, I wouldn't say they're all Web 2 companies. They're just, we're coming out of a tail end of 400, 500 years of joint stock companies, LLCs, hierarchical organization. On the other end of this, you see every week, I imagine, something about teal organizations, agile organizations, how to get the best out of your people. And it's not really a surprise to see that there are people, especially with the last 2 years and the change in working circumstances, the growth in the number of people working in DAOs is astronomical. Right now it's estimated somewhere in the 200,000, 150,000 people, which is like nothing, right? Like, it's very small. But the big draw for this is really just the ability to have a postmodern, post-rational workplace where you actually decide what you need to do. You're here because you actually believe in the vision and you have skin in the game, right? So how many folks are in, you know, employee number 10 or employee number 100 or employee number 5,000 of some company where they're brought in and indoctrinated? And I mean this in a good way, because we all do this. Even in DAOs, we have our own visions where we're like, this is why you're here, this is what we're trying to achieve, right? So why I'm here is interesting because I think that DAOs have the opportunity to do this more authentically than other companies, because at the end of the day, you will have a voting mechanism or some way to actually put your time into this project and get money, or take it out and go somewhere else, right? It's this freedom of voice and exit that is not really present in other company circumstances. It is to some extent, but you know, your voice is basically just, if you use it too much, you're gonna have to exit, right? So like, in terms of values, that's kind of what I see as the trail that's being blazed for a lot of people working, not just in DAOs, but in Web3 in general, because you get to maximize your autonomy in a lot of ways and your agency. And that is what a lot of folks who are, you know, consulting on organizational design, writing about teal organizations, about how to empower people, really are trying to point at. So I think that's the tension between this new sort of, you know, organizational form that we're putting together. And honestly, like Ursula said, none of us are experts at this. I'm going to take the other side of this with DAOs. There's, to some extent, people are not really learning from the past either, which is where my expertise comes in. I kept this short, but I've worked in platform cooperatives as well. So platform cooperatives have a lot to teach DAOs. and to teach protocols in general about more human-centered forms of democratic governance, more democratic decision-making. And I don't want you to take away from this the fact that, oh, that sounds really slow. Sometimes it is, but in other ways it's very empowering. And that's when you zoom out at a high level, you get to see the empowering happen because things move so fast in this space. Honestly, I feel like our brains are totally scrambled half the time just trying to keep up with this stuff, which is why you keep me on your Rolodex, yeah? But anyway, to come back around to the values discussion, it's really about human empowerment, agency, and then that all has trade-offs, right? So we're figuring those out as we go.
And if you had to define like one profile, like this tribe, the Taoist, in fact, there's a conference that there's a lot of people that they see, I've been speaking with a lot of people that they just want to, I'm starting a DAO with Jahed, by the way. And we envision a lot of people just working for the DAO, but not just for one DAO. And tax-wise, even like work-wise, how do you see these people?
Oh, so on the work side, I think that, it's funny you asked that because I have an idea of what I'm kind of looking for, and I don't say what I'm looking for is like a hiring person, and neither is Alex, right? Like when we go out there and we tell people about the DAO that we're forming around standards, which we'll talk about in Shill later, is it's more about like what evidence do you have in the past that you are this whole self-starter that a lot of folks say they want. How have you flexed your agency in the past, right? Have you started an open source project? Have you proactively fixed a bug bounty for some other company that you're not involved in at all, but you were just like, oh, this is a cool problem, I need to fix it, right? And then lastly, do you have experience dealing with the sort of chaotic workplace atmosphere that happens here? Corralling people, driving consensus, getting them to agree on things and then acting, right? And in that sense, I think people who are community organizers, social workers, patient advocates, people like that actually thrive in DAOs from what I've seen. So it's not just the technologists, it's not just the product managers, it's not the people who are like lofty and have technical skills. I think this is a great place I'm specifically looking for people who have a long tail of soft skills, so to say, of dealing with varying social circumstances, different types of people, and driving them to consensus or helping them figure out what they want.
Jonat, your turn. Quick questions, like a lot of artists, I've been speaking with a lot of artists, all of them, they've seen like, oh, somebody sold $1 million on NFTs, something like that. And all of them, they want to get in, even good artists, and they fail because probably they don't understand how to build a community. And usually I try to tell them, like, it's about community, not about, what's your experience there?
Yeah, I think I get a lot of messages from people on Instagram or on Twitter, like how do you sell? This was supposed to be easy because all you hear is someone sold for $1 million, someone sold for this, someone sold for that. And the thing is that NFTs are changing a lot for art and in general. I think most of the internet is going to be based on NFTs when we talk about ownership of our profiles, of different things. Art is just kind of like the gateway drug, I say, into NFTs because it's easiest to understand how it works. But it doesn't mean it's not a magic. It's not magic. It's not like I'm going to make an NFT artwork and it's going to sell. I mean, it doesn't take away. It's almost on the contrary. If before artists had to always look for a gallery and the gallery did the sales or the gallery did all this social media work, now you're your own gallery or you're the artist. You have to do everything. So I think the most successful NFT artists are the ones that also understand that they also have to be kind of entrepreneurs or create their own social media. And yeah, it's about creating your Discord channel, your Twitter channel, and having a following and telling a story, like who are you? So it's not just about making art and putting it out there, it's about creating a community. And I think a lot of Web3 in general, if it's DAOs, if it's NFTs, if it's metaverse projects, that they're built around community because the idea, like you said before, is not I'm a worker in a company. It's I'm part of a community, and everybody is part of this economy. That's how it works. That's kind of the new paradigm of how this is working.
So I think in the old world, people, they wanted to have a Picasso, and all of the owners of a Picasso, probably they met in secret. It's like, we are friends, we are community. It's happening something like that, like Bored Apes, or CryptoPunks. It's not about how beautiful they are.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the end, I mean, let's not pretend that the artists, you know, along the way, there was always the person that said, who are the best artists of this time, right? Picasso was a very good artist, but it doesn't mean he was the best artist of his time. It means he was a good marketer as well, and he knew how to market himself in those times. So part of art, you know, Andy Warhol said, I'm in the business of art. You know, it's not just to paint a painting, and yeah, it's around. I lost my train of thought.
No, it's around community, I guess. Like all of the different NFT collections I know, basically it's this sense of belonging at some point, and it's not about the NFT itself. They meet, they just...
Yeah, what I was going to say was that I think what NFTs did is that they opened it up to a lot more people. So if before I have someone that has collected a few pieces of my art, and he said he lives in New York, he said if I go to a gallery, like a high-end gallery in New York, no one's going to let me in, because I don't fit the profile of the art collector. They're just going to say, yeah, this isn't for you. You're not welcome here, kind of. And I think this economy opened it up to people to anyone that wants to join. And he said, yeah, there's something, now I can say I'm an art collector. And I think a lot of people got in because of the financial benefits that can be in there, but I know so many collectors that have gotten in for that, but now they love art and they go to museums, and so I think it was kind of, it just opened this art market to so many more people.
Somebody told me that there has not been so much art as now because of NFTs.
Yeah.
But NFT is just a JPEG, so it's useless. Anyway, Ursula.
Yep.
So most of the things that they are possible right now, like NFTs, tokens, DeFi, it's because we have protocols in the back. Building a protocol seems like an easy thing to do.
Which is not. It's fucking difficult.
It's fucking difficult. That's what I wanted to hear. And I think, like, I met with a lot of people working at the same company that she does, and I think everything comes down to culture again, but the kind of people that works with Polkadot, for example, I would say it's like a religion. And I see protocols sometimes like a religions because they have true believers, and of course they have Gavin Booth, it's the prophet. And Ethereum has Vitalik, it's okay, it's fine. But then they have these strong values, and then they can deliver and they can grow, and they put together a lot of community. How do you see your community in that sense? If you have to define the tribe, Polkadot tribe?
Well, first of all, I would say that not all of the chains or protocols, they are part of religions.
Yeah.
Including Bitcoin. The Bitcoiners are super maximalist, and it's a hardcore religion for some of them, most of them. So it's not just for Polkadot. Polkadot is different in that degree because Gavin Good's vision, by the way, the ones that you don't know who is Gavin Good is the co-founder of Ethereum as well. He was the creator of Solidity programming language for smart contracts, and he was the CTO of Ethereum and the founder of the Web3 Foundation. So he's been in this space for quite a while, and he has a pretty good idea on how the decentralized world will work. Saying this, he's not a maximalist, just Polkadot. Polkadot is a tool, but it's a tool to integrate some other blockchains as well. So that's the beauty of Polkadot. It's not just Polkadot and we are isolated here, because that's the issue that we have seen right now with a lot of blockchains. All of them are in silos. Some others no, like Cosmos is pretty similar with the mindset of what Polkadot wants to achieve, but a lot of the blockchains, like first of all with the Bitcoin protocol, they're pretty much on silos. And that's one of the biggest challenge with NFTs, because I can buy an NFT on Ethereum, and what about if I want to sell the NFT in another protocol? It's just impossible. And the transactions cost, it gets super expensive. So I think that to have a relay chain, as we have in Polkadot, enables to connect, to interoperate with some other blockchains. And that's different with a religious. So we are a super religious of a whole community.
In fact, like a lot of people, they ask me, like, what technology do I need to use? And I'm always like, it's not about that. It's about what community do you want to go to? Yeah. Because every one of these usually projects, they have different communities. Even they really merge, and we were at this Ethereum event, and there was a lot of people from Polkadot, and all of them, they were talking. So
yeah.
I agree a little bit with Bitcoin. That's probably the most hardcore religion there, by far.
Can I comment on
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think like we keep hearing, you said community, Ursula, you're in community, and also like community is all that RAND network is about. I feel like the folks who come in from Web 2 are like, they have their own ideas of community. Like if you look at every SaaS company today, they have a community, right? They have like a community page where you have like people talking about the features and all that. But the key thing that they're missing is that they don't have skin in the game of the outcome of this thing, right? They're just posting. They want you to improve the product. They want you to do whatever. But when you have holders, when you have developers who are building on that, and sometimes you have that in SaaS companies too, right? There's an SDK, sure. But like, you don't get paid by the protocol to work on it, right? These are people who go home at night and maybe they work for Microsoft, but they contribute to an open source project. That's the key thing about community here, is that you get skin in the game. That's the future of what this decentralized society looks like. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut myself off there because I could talk about Gitcoin forever and all that. But like, yes, that's the key part of what a decentralized society looks like, is there's a mechanism for you to get a piece of your own, to get a stake in what you're building, right? And to be included. And that's true for NFTs, it's true for protocols, it's true for dApps built on top of protocols.
And I would say that if we have to choose a religious, it might be decentralization versus centralization. And we would be in decentralization religion, because that's how the world is moving forward right now. I mean, it's even political. Like people have to choose side between decentralization versus centralization. And I think that we, as we are working on decentralized protocols, we are very much moving forward for a different type of society with this new type of religions, as you said. And that's the community that we're building now. I mean, communities from the very beginning, from the Stone Age, I think that they were pretty much decentralized. When the agricultural society came, they centralized everything. And so now we are going back to the first nature of decentralization. And to that, to build those protocols, we have said, it's super difficult, because a lot of protocols, they say, oh, we are super decentralized, but they're not. No. Because the easy way is to go with centralization. But we know the cost of centralization. So to build a decentralized world, it takes longer, it's harder, but it's, I think that it will be better as a society.
In fact, in the centralized world, I would say it was about like Apple or Google. It was about brands, Porsche, Ferrari. So this kind of like, but then these brands, they needed to spend a lot of money to get people in. Now, the way I see it is not even with a lot of money, because it's not that you go there to get people. You're not going to fish, even with companies and DAOs. It's not like you go there with your HR strategy to get people. It's the people that decide where they want to join because they have values. But last but not least, Paul, what do you think about us all guys?
Yeah, so many things.
Many
but
things.
If you want to jump, for example, in the DeFi tribes, I think before understanding how the tribe, which is, in my point of view, is a little bit different, the DeFi tribes than in the other ones, we got to understand a little bit more like the foundation of DeFi, which is how we can replicate financial systems that really work really well on top of a distributed database, which is a blockchain, right? So this ability is we can create new models never seen before because we are able to share and create. One example that I do really like to explain is, for example, how we make an open market that everybody can benefit from, for example, being a liquidity provider, right? So in a normal market, in traditional finance, we got buyers, we got sellers, and then we got a big company, probably, which is the liquidity provider. That is making sure that when you create this market, if at any point these buyers or these sellers don't agree on a price, because sellers want to sell at the higher price and buyers want to buy at the lower price, there's someone in the middle who's always making sure that always there's liquidity and that this market is not going to stop, right? But these normally are big corporations that make a lot of money. So in the decentralized world, what we bring is that we bring the ability to all of you guys, for example, be able to provide liquidity in those markets and benefit from being a liquidity provider, which basically you will be earning money by getting fees. And in difference from what maybe NFTs and DAOs community see, which is you probably see this sense of ownership and this sense of community that at the end of the day, all the humans, it's what we want, right? It's to feel part of a community, feel part of something. What we've seen in DeFi is that really communities are more focused on how we can build new financial systems that we never seen before in the traditional finance because we don't have the tools yet there to do it. But now with this Web3 system, we are able to do it. And the entire community goes around more how we can build this financial systems rather than more how we can organize ourselves as community. That sometimes this is good and sometimes this is not that good, right? Because you see a lot more people not really working that much together, even though in DeFi, all the basically dApps or that are built are composable one to each other, which is one thing super powerful that we don't see in traditional finance. So imagine building financial systems that I build something, but you build another thing, and we are able to integrate in about minutes, and then both things that we have built, it's way bigger, and we can be way more things. Like imagine just how your kids play Lego, that they are putting basically Lego pieces together. So we did the same, but with a lot of money, right? in basically using code and not Lego pieces, right?
Yeah.
But the core of it is actually the same, right?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Then, next question, I think, not trying to get you into the wrong place, but I see a clash between Web 2 and Web 3 eventually. Like well, Web 3, we're trying to be nice. And for us, like all of these, I just went through here and I see a lot of Web 2. And the feeling a little bit is like Web 2 regulators, they protect Web 2, and they are not really protecting Web 3. I had this panel with people at the European Commission, and they were talking about how they can help. And my answer was like, yeah, you're trying to get on a plane from a horse. They got mad at me. But anyway, what's your feeling? Like, what's the regulator going to do? Because the way I say it, like, and that question goes to the four of you.
Oh, yeah.
For DAOs, I think it's quite important. For protocol, probably you need to talk to the regulator every day about that. For DeFi, every time you tell them that, like, my first discussion about that was with a big bang. They came to me, it's like, okay, Bitcoin, yes. What is that? What do you mean? It's like, what is based? The company. It's like, no, there's no company. It's like, no. But who's the CEO? No, we don't, there's no CEO.
Yeah.
So they could not even understand what we were doing. And probably you have the same feelings. So.
Yeah, so on the DeFi ecosystem, you see that you have protocols that they are fully decentralized. So their market is the people who's already in crypto, right? And it's not that big deal with the regulators because they can be entirely anonymous and entirely in form of DAO, right? But
That's not taxable.
But that's not taxable, and the thing is
They don't like it.
obviously. But the thing is that if you want then to approach and bring people from the mainstream, you will have to do KYC. You will have to do and be compliant, right? Because if then there's no way that you can attract mainstream users without get a very big punishment, right? And the thing is that they are trying to regulate something that at some point still they don't understand. Because at the beginning of building RAN, we want to be regulated. We want to be fully compliant. And it's like, if they ask us for send me all the transactions, I'm going to send you a piece like this of lines of code and just try
Feel free.
to do an
Oh,
audit
yours.
because I want to do my best, but literally, like, I'll send you a piece of code and you will have to figure out if that it's good for you or not,
Yeah.
right? Which I think we're still we're still far away for having a great regulatory system.
Yeah.
But I think that one thing that we all agree is that we don't want to live outside regulation. We want to have a good regulation.
Okay, we don't want. We cannot.
But
Right, okay, we cannot, but
this is
not
something
like
that we
we-
have discussed before, that we need to be compliant. And as you say, yeah, working on a protocol, you need to be talking and speaking with regulators almost every single day of your life, either you like it or not.
Yeah.
Because you're living in a society. And we are just building decentralized protocol, but that doesn't mean that you're out of the society. You're
Yeah.
still part of this tribe,
Yeah.
which is in the planet Earth. So saying this, I think that right now, as Paul have said, we're very early stage still. It seems like a long time, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when the Bitcoin protocol was launched,
Yeah.
it seems like ages, but it's not. It's like we're still not even as a toddler. We are not in that stage either. I mean, as a baby, we are crawling.
definitely.
not as a toddler.
Yeah.
So saying this, I think that what we have seen right now, we have seen some type of infrastructure, which first of all is decentralized on communications, which is that internet with cryptography. So that was the first stage towards decentralization. Then we have to see the decentralized law. And lawyers and regulators, I think that they're getting there, they're getting better. I mean, some years ago it was terrible because it was hard for them to understand. It's like someone come from Mars and they was explaining to them a new whole technology. So right now, I think a lot of, included here in Spain, they're pretty good. They're getting tech savvy on crypto.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will move forward along with them. And so that's the second phase. And then the decentralized production as well. We all live in a home that maybe we can create our own energy. Nowadays with energy consumption, it's getting super expensive, especially here in Spain. It's outrageous, the electricity bill. So some people might thinking like, why not to have your own solar panel? And that's part of the decentralization as well, to have your own energy. And then the last part for me, which is not the least, is super important, is the decentralized finance. And moving forward with those four pillars, I think that we can get to move forward with the whole decentralized world as we envision it.
Jahed,
Oh.
you wanted to add?
Oh, I did want to add to the DeFi stuff, right? Because we talk about regulations a lot, but I think it's important to peg these to what's actually happening in the regular CeFi, like regular finance world, right? There was a great paper that came out in Moody's Analytics last month about that attempted to quantify the risk in decentralized finance protocols. And so I think it's really interesting for folks to check out because show me another financial system that can survive a 60% drawdown in one day without completely collapsing, right? I don't want to remind every bit of 14 years ago what happened, right? We're not talking about the entire world's infrastructure, of course, but this is still a $2 trillion market cap in total, and DeFi protocols already have like nearly $1 trillion in total value locked. So when you think about decentralization and why, right? Like I'm not here because I'm like just some decentralization maxi. It's because there's a certain bit of resilience and anti-fragility built into these systems that we don't see in normal systems, right? So we should seek to understand that and then regulate them on those terms, right? Because like I said, show me another system that can survive a single day 60% drawdown without everyone losing their minds, right? Like that's really important and we should learn from it.
And everybody's focusing a lot on the finance system, on the decentralized finance, but like the way I see it, and please add, like not just finance. We are like DAOs, they are decentralizing the way how people work, how they collaborate.
Yeah.
They're focusing on public goods of any kind. So I don't know, talk about different kind of.
Absolutely. So like getting back to the original title around decentralized societies, right? Public goods and the commons are a really important thing that's popping up as a movement right now. So Gitcoin, Prime DAO, Regen Network, there's an entire regenerative finance movement that's popping up in Web3 that's really important. And what it's trying to do is basically say, how do we make a non-extractive financial system that can be constructed as a circular economy for all, right? So you think about like, since about 800 years ago when England passed the laws that became the enclosure of the commons and created the public and private divide in societies, ever since that point, we have not had a publicly managed commons, and then on top of that, you had things built on top like the tragedy of the commons, and then of course, Elinor Ostrom's work, which is really, really pivotal to a ton of people in Web3 right now, who basically found she won the 2009 Nobel Prize in kind of showing that people themselves can figure out how to manage commonly owned resources, and the tragedy of the commons is not a deterministic outcome, right? So people in Web3 have really run with that, and they're now thinking, how do we make open source digital public goods for all? And so what does that actually mean? It means, when you think about, I'll try to keep this short, when you think about Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and all these folks who are building walled gardens around the internet, they actually tremendously benefit from open source. There's about $500 billion per year of value that runs through the open source ecosystem that they sip from, right? And when I say sip from, I mean they are wholly stealing from open source projects, especially in the case of, I'm not going to name too many names, but look it up yourself. Elastic and AWS are not friends for a reason, right? And Elastic is an open source, a company built on open source, freely available stuff that, they've made their own allegations in court, and you can look it up, because I'm not making allegations here. But that being said, what does a digital open source public good look like? It's creating an economy where people who want certain things can put bounties, can put contracts, can put whatever they want on a market, like Gitcoin grants, and then also make that a part of publicly owned infrastructure that anyone can reuse. So like composable DeFi. If someone comes in and says, hey, I want to make this new way to make a self-repaying loan, but I don't really know where to start, and I have a concept. You can literally go on Gitcoin, someone can fund an open source developer to build that, and that person doesn't have to go home at night and work for free on a passion project anymore, right? So I think like these are really important things that we're rebuilding a little bit in this space.
Yeah, I think that when you ask about regulation and how, like, I think what your horse and airplane
metaphor
is, I recently saw this video with Bill Gates explaining to David Letterman in 1994. He said, explain to me what the internet is. And he said, oh, you can go on the internet and read about something that interests you. And he said, well, I have magazines for that. Or you can go on and talk to people. And he said, well, I can pick up a phone, or I can, and it was just the beginning of the internet. And I think nobody could imagine what can develop from it back then. And it was still thought of in the ways of before the internet. So we couldn't even imagine where it can go. And I think the same thing is happening here. When you talk about regulation, I think, and you said before, like it's going, you can't keep up. Like every day things are happening, and the regulators are like 10 years behind, and they're going in the pace of like a regular pace, and this Web3 is going in the pace of like, spaceships. So I just think it will create a whole different structure that has nothing to do with the past one, and something new is going to be created. So it's not like it's going to be regulated in the old ways, something else. And also it's really hard, because regulators work in countries, in physical borders, and this is cross-border. I mean, how can you regulate something that is being used from people all around the world? If it's a protocol that's being used all around the world, how do you regulate that? You're not in charge of the citizens of the world. So
I had this talk with a regulator a long time ago. It's like, are you bringing Bitcoins to the country? No, I'm not. They're already here. Because basically it's a decentralized network with a lot of nodes everywhere. So basically I'm just bringing keys, but my cryptos are here.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question.
Me?
Why, yes, to you. Why decentralization it is important, given the current affairs that we're living?
Good question.
For me, I've been working for many corporates in the past, and there was no cooperation. it was about accumulation. I was speaking with a big company here. It's like, what's your mission for the next couple of years? It's like to grow as much as possible. And what I've seen is a lot of companies acting like gas. They just wanted to expand. But they had no mission, no vision, no values. With decentralization, I can see a lot of people focusing on the things they like, whatever it is, and not just one, but many. And not because they pay me to do it, it's because I want to do it. And I can prove them that I'm good, so I will join this DAO, I will join this movement. I care about environmental impact. I have strong values, and then that means that probably I cannot work for a big company. I've tried, doesn't work, don't listen too much. So for me, decentralization is a way of people focusing on what they are good at and enjoy it. And it's not really a job, it's their passion. What I'm seeing at Polkadot, for example, like people, they love what Gavin is building. I'm one of those. I've been building in Polkadot, and the technology is awesome. And it's like, it's equal for everyone. This technology, this decentralization, it's not about politics. It's not about like even most of the people working on Web3, you will see a lot of avatars, pseudonyms. We don't care if it's a man or a woman or a kid. Honestly, we just want people actually doing things, not talking that much. And that's what I see in decentralization, not accumulation of power, because we don't care about power. We care about things getting done.
Well, you just said something very important, not accumulation of power, and we have seen recently in Canada
For example.
what had happened.
Anyway, we have 8 minutes to go. I would say, last question, 2 minutes, each one of you.
Okay.
It's, for me, you represent that, like the 4 tribes. I'm the developer, probably I'm the 5th, but anyway, how do you see your tribe like in 4 years from now? And I'm not being paid by the sponsors, but I think that's a good question. Like, how do you see DAOs will be in 4 years from now? Art and NFTs and play to earn, by the way, will be in 4 years from now. Protocols and DeFi. Paul.
So, in my point of view, I think that from like 4 years from now, probably we'll see that we are having all these DeFi ecosystems that we have right now. But I hope at that point we reach a point with the regulators that we have a really good regulator system, and that we can really create products that are entirely backed by crypto and by DeFi, but are user-friendly for everybody, right? Which, you know, Web2, one thing that they did really good is the experience of the user, right? Which is, at the end, is the most important thing. And I think in 4 years, we will see how we can create products that they can keep this decentralized component at the same time that we are able to onboard people from the mainstream without having to force them to go through a learning curve to understand all the different things that we are using or doing in the backend, right? That probably currently in most of the projects, you first have to go through a learning curve, and after you can use it. And I think one of the beauties of the decentralization is that you should not really require to know a lot of knowledge to be able to use in a safe way all these different products, right? Because for me, DeFi also, and this decentralization component comes from, at the beginning, a lot of years ago, we were smaller, and we were basically trading peer-to-peer with people. Then we created financial systems, because when you bring this globally, a financial system is way easier. But now with Web3, you don't need these things, because you can rely on a distributed database that all the things that you do are recorded and everyone can agree on that, right? So it's like how we are making this first thing that we were doing, and there's a small market, for example, trading one-to-one in a global scale.
Ursula?
In 5 more years, man, that's like an ages, because right now,
That's
like
20 years in
1 year
Portugal,
is
yeah.
like 5 years in all time. So 5 more years is a lot. I mean, yeah, things are changing so rapidly. But I would say, like, with the community more in power, people will be, as Paul have said, I think that the learning curve would be much bigger and impactful in different countries and societies as well. People will be more aware of why decentralization matters. This is an unstoppable technology that is out there, and no one will stop it right now because it's too big to fail. It's too big to get stopped. It's unstoppable. So I would see more communities and more societies being more aware of of this technology and the benefits of decentralization. That's from the very high level and abstract. And the specifics, probably artists and included journalists getting paid independently of a huge centralized media company. We have seen that on the artist community, and I think that NFTs are expanded into different communities, including journalism. So from a lot of content creators community, I would say that we'll see that impact on decentralization as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think for artists, the biggest difference is that, especially digital artists before, they were the ones that you call to make a logo, to make your website, to do something. And today, NFTs and in general have given them so much more place in this world. And I think that all the companies that are getting into the metaverse understand that an artist is not just the person that will paint you the logo, that it needs to be someone, an integral part of whatever you're building. So I think it's putting artists in a much bigger place or a much bigger spotlight, and that this new economy will be a lot more creative, because in the end it's not just about painting a picture, it's about a new form of creative thinking that is being added to this.
I think in 4 or 5 years, you will see the first real results from impact DAOs. So right now, we are just in the little baby steps of what impact DAOs have been able to achieve, but basically, KlimaDAO, what's up?
Explain what an impact DAO is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, we're in the little early stages of what impact DAOs are, but the biggest example is KlimaDAO, which basically, for a short period of time last summer, was able to lock up every little bit of carbon on the carbon market, voluntary carbon markets that was less than $1, to drive a huge incentive for companies to act on climate change. So all the coordination mechanisms that have been coordination failures across states, right? We need people to act on climate change now. We need, a number of things, right? Environmental destruction, ecological biodiversity loss. I think you're going to see a lot of cross-border impact DAO activity. Like some of the crazier ideas I've seen are stuff like buying a mountain and locking up the coal in it so it can't be mined, and then generating yield for the people who actually bought into that project so that they're incentivized not to let anyone sell their stake of a mountain, right? So that's nuts, but these are the kind of ideas we need, because we have literally 8 years left before a lot of things actually get really bad in the climate change front. So impact DAOs, I think, are going to be huge. And that's an area that I'm looking at actively too, so.
The thing is, and just to wrap up a little bit, is decentralization. It's a good idea, and I would summarize in something like, usually most of the people working on Web3, they don't care about that, accumulating power. But anyway, it's the system itself that has resilience against that. Why? Because in the DAO, everybody has an incentive to be part of it, and then they just are part of it, but as builders, as part of it, bottom up. And then we don't have this up-down thing. So the architectures of power in the decentralized world, they they disappear. And the thing is, if someone gets too much power in a DAO, then you just move to a different DAO, because there's no contract, there's no...
One thing too, as the DAO guy, just to tell you all, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Of course not.
Yeah, what you think about in the early days is very important, because very soon some DAOs become run by one king, and you never know who that person is, or a shadow person. You have to be very thoughtful. We're not all idealists here. We just have to be realists at the end of the day. Just wanted to throw that in there.
No, and we're learning a lot.
Yeah.
Basically, if you work for the DAO, one of the first things you learn about is voting systems. There are so many different voting systems because it's about coordination. So coordinating all of these people in a way that it does not fail, it fails.
It's very
Honestly,
difficult.
it fails, and we fail a lot. We're not good at that.
Absolutely.
But if we succeed, if we make it, if Web3 comes in, if we have a lot of young people with strong values, probably stronger than ours, they get into this cooperation kind of society, then probably we will never have something like what's going on right now, because
Young people.
Web3 it's resilient against things like Putin. There's no way that somebody can get so much power to cause so much harm. And that's for me probably this kind of cooperation. it's the secret sauce for Web3 or decentralization. But anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot for sharing. And well, see you soon, guys.
Thank you.